The soup tasted good on his tongue. He could taste the cabbage and the pork, and it was hot and it was spicy. And he couldn't believe that he, as a Russian, was being dressed with clean bandages. He was a happy man, or he always had been, all the way from Russia to fight in the Crimea. But now he was in a hospital, a field hospital that was run by his enemies, the British. He'd been shot in his cheek and shot in his leg, but because he was an officer, they were treating him well. This had been a terrible winter in the Crimea. His leg, he could feel it stinging, for dirt had fallen inside of it, and he knew that he would not be able to keep his leg. And when he was taken away, he saw a woman who was walking amongst all of the wards with a lantern, holding it high. She was speaking to all of the soldiers. She was making sure that they were comfortable. He couldn't believe it. Underneath his bed, you could see that there was a bowl there to hold blood. But he was also given fresh water to drink, and his wounds were washed regularly. And always this woman was there with a lamp in her hand. She would go from bed to bed, and even though he could not speak English, she would talk to him, and her voice was caring and loving and concerned. She would always look, and if there was no other nurse available, she would do the work herself. Her voice was strong, and he could hear it from the far end of the ward where he was. As the days went by, with the soup to warm him and make him stronger, he could sit up and remembered looking into her eyes, and even though he could not understand her words, she made sure that he was comfortable. But one thing that he did notice, that as she was going along, she was always writing. She was writing in a book, checking who had been washed and cleaned, who'd had the bandages changed. She was writing it down, the numbers. He thought that this was a good thing, and he'd never seen anything like it. But the thing that astonished him the most was this. One day, when he was well enough to stand up and be carried out of his bed to sit in a chair, to sit at the end of the ward, all of the soldiers who had been lying on the soil floor were picked up and taken out of that place, and this woman, with a strong voice and a caring eyes, was making sure that stone slabs were placed on top of the soil to make sure that the wounds did not get dirty. A stone floor was laid down, which was scrubbed every day, and he watched. And he got quite used to the idea that out of every 10 men who came into that ward, 5 of them would not survive. It almost seemed as if they were more frightened of going to the hospital than they were of fighting in the war. But once this woman had become in charge, and she made sure that wounds were washed and food was given to the men, whether they were Russian or English, that they were all kept clean and they were spoken to. Well, it was maybe only 2 out of 10 who would die inside of the hospital. Fresh bread was given to them every day. Potatoes were given to them. But there was a smell of soap in the air, always. Strong, carbolic soap. Many years after the war, when he walked with a leg that was made out of wood, with a stick in his hand, he would read in the papers in Russia, so many years afterwards, that this woman was so famous. And he remembered hearing her name, Florence. Florence, a lady with a lamp in her hand, who had tended to him, an enemy of Britain, but she had not cared, because she had looked after him and treated him like a human being. He felt proud to tell his grandchildren that he had been tended by the lady with the lamp.